All right, guys, on the road in New York, hometown city. Got trapped in flying out of Miami with the hurricane. It was a 30-hour ride to get to New York and then a 7-hour drive because I got thrown off tracks. What a wild time. So there's going to be a little different kind of podcast, but I want to get some coverage out. There's so much exciting stuff going on. Uh, it's amazing. As soon as I decide to go on a vacation, everything seems to happen. I guess I picked a bad time. Anyway, I'm going to cover some good news, real good news that's happening for the Finns, but some questions. This is it, man. This is the big time start for the Dolphins. Week one is a critical game. I don't think it's going to be end all be all. Like we have to win, but I do think this is an important game. It'll be very interesting to see how it plays out. And obviously, great news. I don't like what Hill does off the field, but you want him on the field. No punishment. It was going to be ticky-tack. I thought it was going to be about maybe one game at most, but he's not getting anything. That's big. We need him all season. He is the leverage maker, even above Waddle. And speaking of that, Waddle being back, he's starting to practice day, so Hill not getting hit with that fine, and Waddle being back, it's going to create a different kind of offense than we've seen in preseason. Preseason is one thing, but the looks you get are generated from the players that you have, and Hill and Waddle set different kind of leverage. I thought that leverage was going to be, enhanced by the Chosen, but Chosen got cut. I was a little surprised about that, but I kind of felt as it went on that I don't know if he was going to make it. Wilson, they wanted to restructure. They needed the money. They couldn't cut him. Only way to restructure was to keep him. So maybe the way Berrios was playing and the fact they need the money and had to keep Wilson to kind of lend towards Chosen getting cut. But still, I like Berrios a ton. He has a lot of the qualities that the Chosen had for us. So Hill, Waddle, Chosen, Wilson, and Easy in the background. And he's just said he'll be ready by week one. Considering what's going on with Wilson being on the IR, this is a big, important thing. So we're kind of on track in our passing game. I really like what the situation is for us heading into this first week. Now, we got plenty of time for guys to heal. And so some of these guys that we're not seeing, they're probably going to be ready. And you know where I'm going to head with that. My man, Tehran, hasn't been seen in practice again today, but I think he's going to be ready week one, although there's a little curiosity. I'll get into that in a little bit. So he wasn't seen in practice, but still plenty of time. He's a guy who can just kind of show up and be the guy we need with very little practice, although it does put a little concern on enough for him to get ready and not to get, put himself in jeopardy to get hurt. Blocking is going to be the key. It's going to be the key, and there's some interesting stuff with that I'm going to go over, but I want to keep going with the happy news. Tehran is definitely not there, but it's so much time, so I'm really happy with that. Alec Engel got signed, which is another good news I'll get in a second. You got Sealer with the extension, and so there's some contracts being moved around, guys getting their money, but Wilkins is still not a guy getting his money, but he said he's going to show, and you know that he's definitely going to. I had that feeling from the beginning. It's critical for him to come in and have a great season for him to get the money that he wants. I think this guy's going to be here for a couple of years. They can tag him and do whatever. I don't think he's going to hold out this year or next. So that's real good news. As I said, Alec Engel is an important piece for us. Blocking is critical. Physicality is critical. And the secondary blockers play a major role in this blocking. And Alec Engel, with his ability to catch, his ability to block, to be that physical guy, still I think he needs to get a little bit better in his run blocking. I still don't think it's great. It's good. His pass blocking is excellent. His catching is very good. So this was a great signing. He's a guy that, the team loves, the coaches love, the players love. So that's really a lot of great news for us heading into this critical Chargers game. And, the Chargers, they're going to be a difficult team. Their biggest drawback is always the injuries. And if the injuries aren't there, they're going to be a tough team week one. I think we can beat them, but I do put the odds in their favor. But we are putting the pieces together to kind of make this a game where we can take it. We're not going in as wounded as we could possibly be. I mean, there's going to be some issues with the secondary. There's definitely going to be issues with the blocking on the offensive line with guys who might not be in, depending on how it plays out. But overall, we're going to have the pieces that we need to win. still think it's going to be hard. Now in the tight end group, I put that as a very big key heading into the season, 2023 season, and it didn't play out the way I thought. In some ways worse, in some ways better. I think Julian Hill really showed a little bit more than I thought he was going to, and it kind of added a little spice that was a little vacant there through some of the other guys. Salbert, he's on IR. I really wasn't high on him to begin with. Croft, I'm like a little high on. I think he's not as good as people sometimes think that his blocking ability is. Smythe, he's solid, but, he's not, he doesn't have high point talent. And he's kind of like a journeyman, a lunch pail kind of guy. And we all wanted Elijah Higgins to be that guy, to be the guy to come in and have like that Shannon Sharp explosion. And we didn't really see it. But the draft pick was a good pick. You could tell that when he was released, 5 teams were trying to put waivers on to get him. And so that's a sign that everybody was seeing something. It was a good pick by Greer. I don't know if it's going to be the right move to let this guy have walked. But the Cards end up getting him. We didn't. 5 teams, though, were trying to get him. And so I think the overall concept of bringing him in here was a good idea. It's a shame that he couldn't catch on. I didn't think he was going to. Thought he was going to be able to be stashed on the practice squad. But it was, it was something they had to do. They had to get this tight end situation worked out. I think Salbert, he's not being around, is a hindrance. Smythe will be ready, and, Croft is kind of, But Hill, I like his potential to be the guy we thought maybe Higgins can be in some areas where you could get a guy who could block. You get a guy who can maybe help you in the pass-catching department. You look at Julian Hill, guy's built like a brick house. And so it's, this is going to be an important decision here, how Hill plays out compared to what Higgins develops into and how he decided to develop this guy to either keep him on a roster or not. And the decision to keep him on a roster or not over Hill will definitely be an interesting situation. Now, the secondary blockers are critical to the blocking. Blocking is critical. I go over it all the time, and ad nauseum. But it's the primary blockers that really do set most of the table. Now, Duran's not in, and I think he's going to be. And I'm not really high on Keon Smith. I did not expect them to keep Keon Smith. Now, some people, evaluators liked what they saw. I didn't. But I'm wondering if they kept Keon Smith because they're not certain if Duran's going to be in. Because, you have Lamb, and who's going to be the backup to Lamb and Jackson? Eichenberg's been injured. He's still not practicing, and he's not good when he gets in there. And so I think Wynn is now the dedicated left guard. And is this Keon Smith keeping him, A, just because they like his talent, they think he can develop, and there's some people whose evaluations meet that, not mine, but, we'll see. I'm hoping. But did they keep him in as a short-term backup because Duran might need a little extra time? I don't really know if that's the case. We'll see. It's a big one. Cotton, they kept Cotton, which we all kind of knew. But there was some talk about how he'd taken snaps at center. And from what I've seen with Cotton, I think Cotton's technique is very good. He has some real good potential. It's just that strength aspect. But at center, as I've talked about in the past, that center position, you can really mitigate some weaknesses in that strength department. So Cotton is very intriguing for me. I'm kind of glad they kept him. But you got Wynn and Eichenberg. Eichenberg's hurt, and he's been kept, and I don't think I'm not happy they kept Eichenberg. I understand why, but it's going to be huge how Keon Smith, how Lamb, how Wynn, how Eichenberg, how Jackson, and how Cotton play out. You can see right here, Greer said he's happy with the offensive line and feels we can win with this unit. That's going to be the statement of the season. If this team succeeds with this offensive line, and this offensive line either doesn't hinder the team enough to compromise them, or even better, rises in its talent level to execute their assignments to actually boost this team, Chris Greer should be, marked as the GM of the year. And in my opinion, I really think that if this plays out towards a successful ending, Chris Greer needs to be hailed as brilliant. But on the flip side, a lot of us, our evaluations are contrary to what Greer is saying. And if this does turn out to be another beep of an offensive line for another year, I think this has got to fall squarely at Chris Greer's feet. I mean, I think it's going to, Tua and McDaniel and the offensive staff and whoever else is going to be the frontline guys taking the fire. But this has to come back to Chris Greer because these are executive decisions to bring these guys in. And he's made statements over and over again that his belief is this offensive line is good enough. And if it is, this was utterly brilliant. So I think ultimately, again, my final evaluation is Chris Greer is the guy that needs to take the first bow, would it be the first guy on the chopping block by whatever happens this season in this offensive line. I'm going to be with my man Tommy at Mafia Sports Report tomorrow night at 6 p.m. We're going to be talking to AFC East if you want to check that out. But so far, guys, there's some real interesting stuff. There's tons of information. I think, I could probably do 2 hours worth with all the stuff that's going on. I think most of it's good news. One of the things that I really am happy to see is that Jalen Phillips is ranked number 2 for top 10 breakout NFL players for the season. And he's a guy who I am ultra high on. I did a whole film study. Jalen Phillips, one step away from greatness, or half step away from greatness. I can't remember right now. But this kid is looking to be the superstar. I think he has the potential to be the number 1 superstar on this team in a year or two. And this could be his launching point. I am so happy to hear he's finally getting the accolades. And I've said before, his play is far beyond that 7 sacks and that he had last year. He was, I think, the 6th most pressured defender with the most pressures. And I'm happy to see this guy get the kudos that he deserves. So that's really it. I got a lot of stuff to talk about, but I'm just giving a short little shoot out here. Format will be back to normal when I come back Tuesday, guys. I hope all's well. I hope you have a great vacation, great holiday. Enjoy your time, and it's getting ready to happen very soon. This is Curtis saying, catch you next time. Be well. Go Fins. Start building your own online sportsbook today by getting signed up with acebread.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.